Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Everybody that watches the show, you know that we're so interested in logistics. We're so interested how things get from point A to B. And of course, we talk about it all the time. All the shipments that are going on throughout the country and throughout the world are absolutely remarkable. And we love it so much when we can get a leader in the space on the show. We love it so much because there's so many questions. How do packages get from point A to B? What types of companies now are using multi-carrier shipping technologies? And we have so many questions about it. So we've been able to invite a real leader on the show today. His name is Mr. Tom Budinick. And you probably know Tom if you're in the shipping field. He is the co-founder and president of All That Ship. So Tom, I wanted to welcome you to the show. We have so many questions, but first off, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andy. A pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. You're a real leader in the space. You've been at it for a long time. Your entrepreneurial journey is remarkable. Before we get started, though, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet, as we always do. We become famous for that. Tell us about All That Ship, and then we're going to get into it.
Yeah, no worries. So All That Ship is a carrier agnostic, cloud-based shipping solution, Andy. Essentially, our niche, if you will, focuses on anybody shipping their products, business to business or consumer to business. But our specific niche is the small parcel or less than truckload market. For us, that's where the margins are, and that's where it's most exciting. You know, our customers are always, or often anyway, offering free shipping because the peers in their space may be doing so. We all know there's no such thing as free shipping. So anyway, that's how we got started.
I love it, Tom. Of course, when we talk about truckloads of merchandise, truckloads of goods, truckloads of items, a typical 53-foot truckload is about 26 pallets. Sometimes they double stack those pallets, of course. But in your particular case, you've really put together a niche. You put together sort of this specialty at All That Ship. So when we think about the types of companies that reach out to your company, what kind of business are they in? Is there sort of a general sort of feel about what they're doing and why they're using you to save all that money and get the best shipping for less anywhere in America?
Yeah, the answer is no. So we really can help any customer. But again, we focus on the smaller customer. $5 million and less would be ideal for us on the top line. And we certainly can go bigger than that. But when a company gets much past $5 or $10 million, Andy, they typically would have a rep from the carrier calling on them and offering some more competitive pricing.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk about it because so many people are shipping so many things. It's incredible. You go down the freeway at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's nothing but semi trucks going from point A to B. A lot of people are talking about they'll become autonomous eventually. But right now, the truckers really rule the roost. They're really making the world go round and making the America sort of economy, continue to keep on pushing because without the truckers, things don't get from point A to B. So how does it work? When you have people that come on the platform, they want to use this multi-carrier shipping technology that you put together. How do you sort of put them in the right place to get the right carrier to move their merchandise around?
Yeah, it's really, really rather simple. So we're a SaaS-based, as I said a moment ago, cloud-based carrier agnostic system. So I'm trying to answer your question specifically. We'll install a software, again, cloud-based, in their place of business. What this allows them to do, Andy, is rate shop for the best rate. So certainly at the top of the list will be the FedEx, the UPS, the US Postal System, the DHLs of the world. But below that, we literally have hundreds of other carriers for the customer to choose from. What's most exciting is that it will not only rate shop, but it will allow them as a small business to tack on to our collective spend with all the major carriers. Collectively, Andy, we have a spend with the major carriers, UPS, DHL, the FedEx, that's in excess of $4.2 billion. So a small customer, a small merchant, a small retailer, for example, will never amass that type of leverage with the suppliers. So beyond that, once the rate shop is completed, they can track the shipment, they can schedule the pickup, they can print the label. But then we've come into some other niches for us as well. So some companies, Andy, have a difficult time shipping their product year-round because of temperature spikes, either too cold or too hot. Chocolate manufacturer, for example, a wine merchant. There's lots of them. So for those customers, we've also developed some temperature-controlled packaging that is really state-of-the-art. It's 100% recyclable. It's actually made from 100% recyclable materials to begin with. And then beyond that, don't take our word for it that the product you're shipping didn't exceed or fall below a certain temperature. We also partnered with an Israeli company that had developed temperature control technology, initially developed for the pharmaceutical and produce industry. During COVID, the pharmaceutical companies, Andy, were shipping their vaccines in very important temperature controlled shipments. So anyway, this is state-of-the-art technology that will allow the customer to track the shipment and the temperature all the way from pickup to delivery. And then beyond that, we also set up our own captive insurance company to insure the product for those that wanted to insure it. So lots of little niches that really make us stand out from what would be normally a relatively crowded space in our field.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great lesson for entrepreneurs watching the show and listening to Tom. Rewind what Tom just said. I mean, here we have this, cloud-based multi-carrier platform, but what they've decided to do is also add these incredible technologically driven value-added programs and processes to the complete platform, which I love so much. Let's talk about the temperature control packaging because, we know that there's wine and chocolates and refrigerated foods and everything else moving around the country. And you've partnered with an Israeli company. How does that look? I mean, do the people go on the platform and they get to see the temperature of the packages? What's that sort of look like from a high level?
Yeah, from a high level, Andy, that the technology is pretty evolving, but the product is actually as small as a credit card. And once the product is picked up from the customer, these two levers, if you will, are pulled away from the card, and creating two chemicals to that were separate to become together, if you will. And anyway, the same process is done when the product is actually delivered to the customer. So the customer can take that and then ensure that product was picked up at 60 degrees, for example, and didn't over increase to 70 degrees or whatever the desired temperature was from the side of the consumer.
Yeah, Tom, it's so important from a quality control standpoint to be able to use a company like yours, of course, all that ship to have that quality control, especially when you need to know the temperature of the transport. Tom, when we think about it, you mentioned that you partnered with this company. It's a technology company in the packaging business in a different country, Israel. Let's give the entrepreneurs watching the show a little, maybe the younger entrepreneurs, a little high level. How does something like that come about? How does a partnership come about when you sort of see something that you love and you say to yourself, this would be great for our process, for our platform? How does that work? Do you reach out to that company? Did they reach out to you? Did you meet them online? Did you meet them at a trade show? How does that connection happen with such an important part of your business?
Well, thanks. My partners and I have been in the logistics space for, collectively, maybe 60, 70 years. And so in this particular case, my partner and co-founder, Steve Wilson, knew a person at a packaging company that had a brother that invested in this Israeli startup. So it was somewhat incestuous. We knew somebody who made an introduction. Simple as that.
I love it. And of course, for the entrepreneurs watching the show, be aware. Be aware. Keep your radar out there because there's all types of opportunities. Now, you mentioned, some of the smaller technical aspects of this sort of refrigeration, temperature control packaging insert. I think you have a couple of them on the desk. Why don't you show those to the people watching the show? Because it's just fascinating that you can do so much with so little.
Yeah, how it works is, so this is the temperature control device. Other devices, Andy, exist today in the marketplace. They could plug into your USB port, for example, but they might be $10, $15, $20 a piece. This particular technology, as you can see here, is the size of a credit card. As I mentioned a moment ago, this has a picture of some produce on it. It was originally developed for both the pharmaceutical and the produce company, both very important products to make sure they don't fall below or exceed a certain temperature during delivery. So anyway, how the technology works is there are two chemicals in this card. And once when the shipment is picked up for delivery, this tab is removed, combining two chemicals that will create the temperature control device. And then once the package is picked up for delivery, same thing. Pulled out, and you can make certain that in this case, the product was designed to not fall below 50 or go above 60 during a 36 or 72 hour transfer.
That's great, Tom. Really interesting. Now, you and Steve and the entire team, of course, at all that ship, the one thing that just reigns supreme and is omnipotent, if you look at the testimonials, you look at what you're doing with the platform, is you really have this commitment to your client. I mean, it comes through with what you're doing. The platform is simple and easy to use. You save people so much money. Of course, you have the captive insurance company you put together, the temperature control packaging that is a remarkable technology through a great partnership you put together. But let's talk about it. Where did this commitment come from? Where did this commitment to make sure that your clients get the best of the best and making things simple and easy for your clients come from, Tom?
Well, that's the biggest probably point of distinction. You're right. All these other suite of services that we offer are certainly unique to our space, a crowded space, again, for sure. But I think that's a great question, Andy. We are high touch. So that's the pinnacle difference. There are 3 or 4 major players in our space, but you can't get anybody on the phone or in an email. So the client support and the high touch is really where we excel. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, let's say I'm shipping less than a truckload of items. I've heard about your company. I've heard about, of course, your background and experience. Of course, you and Tom have been at this for a long time. And I want to try this system out. I want to try this cloud-based SaaS system out. What's my process? Am I allowed to get on to try it out, for free? Where's the starting point with trying out the platform?
Yeah, sure. No, good question. It's a really simple onboarding process. So once we have your interest, we're going to set up an onboarding call, typically 20 to 30 minutes. We'll walk you through it. It's very user-friendly. And so there's not a lot to it. Our subscription is relatively inexpensive to begin with. If a certain customer had a certain level of sales, we may, Andy, give them the product, because really where we make our money is in the other suite of services. Again, the temperature controlled packaging, the temperature control device itself, the captive insurance. So that's really it's a really simple process, and there's no commitment either. So if you don't like it, you didn't install anything physically, since it's cloud based. You either like it or you don't. You're either going to save money and save time, or you're not.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, you're putting your money where your mouth is. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, I mean, I love that so much. Now, Tom, we have smaller shippers as well. So does your platform work for the guy or the gal that's maybe selling, on Etsy or eBay, and maybe they're selling, 1 pallet at a time or 5 boxes at a time? Let's talk about the smaller player as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And we always find ourselves as the co-founders, seeing a product on the street that we might have just purchased and saying, "Hey, how are you shipping your product?" I was at a market, farmer's market in Utah recently, and I bought some of the best beef jerky I'd ever had. And so I just gave him a card. One thing led to another. So the answer to your question is, we don't care how much you ship. Building our collective spend with all the major carriers is built, one shipment at a time. So it doesn't matter how small you are, I should say, but it does matter how big you are. Again, we're going after the smaller market.
Yeah, it's so interesting. This collective spend, I think you mentioned, is in the billions, and your clients get to leverage off of that spend with the platform. And of course, the big carriers show up on the platform when your customers put the information in, but then there's a lot of medium to small size carriers as well. So let's talk about those small to mid-sized carriers. They maybe have heard about it. They want another outlet. How do they sign up for what you're doing and all that ship to get on the platform?
Yeah, so it's really because of that 40, 50-year relationship that we have with the suppliers. So it's not like we have to entice a trucking firm to get on our platform. We are part of a rate shopping service that really already exists. And you know what Steve, my co-founder and CEO, likes to say is the right price for shipping is what the customer decides it is. So sometimes getting there the next day on FedEx may not be the best solution for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that they, among others, like UPS, did away with their guarantee during COVID, for example. The product's going to get there shortly after it arrives and not necessarily by the formally promised 24-hour, 36, 72-hour period, Andy.
Yeah, I love it. Of course. COVID. Yeah, it's interesting, Tom. Of course, we spoke about your clients on the one side who are using you for really their shipping solutions through your, technology solution through your platform. Let's talk about the other side, the truckers, because I get up early. Sometimes I'm on the road. I see the truckers driving and I say to myself, they really make the world go round. So, how important is the technology to the truckers? How easy is it for the carriers to use the platform as well?
Yeah, no, it's really seamless, if you will. And we really don't have visibility, Andy, from that truckers. So, they're getting on their system. Hey, there's a shipment to be picked up at 24 Maple Street tomorrow morning. And it's going to be delivered to Pennsylvania within 72 hours. That's really all they care about. They couldn't care about where the lead came in. And that's how it's really scheduled. So it's really not really important that we have visibility from their standpoint at all.
Yeah, I love it. And so many people are in the food business now. So many people are in the wine business. We've interviewed some younger entrepreneurs that have their energy bars and their health bars, and they've got, chocolate covered, no fat, energy concoctions. And to ship it in a way that's temperature controlled makes all the sense in the world, because they only get one shot. For the entrepreneurs watching the show, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And if your items show up downstream, melted, or, they don't arrive in the right consistency, you've got major problems. So that's why this temperature control packaging that all that ship offers is so important throughout the country. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time, Tom. I mean, everybody's talking about logistics. Everybody's talking about shipping and trucking right now. I know you're right in the middle of it. I mean, you get invited, Steve gets invited to daises, and you speak at events, and everybody wants a piece of you guys. So before I let you go, I want to talk about entrepreneurship a little bit, because your entrepreneurship journey is phenomenal. But for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, Tom, maybe they're hitting a roadblock, maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road, maybe they freeze in the frame, they don't know what to do. I'm hoping you might be able to give some advice and some input to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show that maybe don't have your experience, but maybe they're hitting a pothole, and what it takes to get through a pothole to become a successful entrepreneur.
No, it's a great question, Andy. And I have been involved in a number of organizations. One that's been very dear to my heart has been a worldwide organization called the Entrepreneur Organization. It's a group of entrepreneurs that typically meet every week, 7 to 10 people that you become fraternal brothers and sisters with, and you meet once a week. And it's been an incredible experience for me. Through that, exercise. I actually took on mentoring university students at a couple of different universities over the years. But I think the more, prudent answer to your question is, I hate to use the cliche, Andy, but I've always surrounded myself with people much smarter than myself. My first venture was put together with a board of directors that would rival many Fortune 100 companies. They were people in really successful careers and in really advanced positions within their industry. And it was a great experience. We launched several different companies together, made a fair amount of money together, and really had a lot of fun doing it. So again, having a mentor is probably the most important thing. Someone to learn from, someone to learn that, hey, this is how I raise capital, or this is how I might structure a deal, et cetera.
Yeah, Thomas, it's great advice. And we talk about mentorship all the time. Of course, you had mentors early on, and now you're giving back by mentoring others. And of course, you've got the Entrepreneurship organization, and you believe in surrounding yourself with people that care about you, that can give you good advice. Before I let you go, let's talk a little bit more about mentorship. When you're mentoring these younger students, when you're mentoring these people on entrepreneurship, and when you're mentoring them on business, what's the one thing you're trying to get across to the younger people as they start entering the workforce and start entering the entrepreneurial journey?
Well, it's a great question. And I have a daughter and son in college. One is about to graduate here in about 2 weeks, and the other one is a freshman. And I see your neon sign in the back of your office. That says it all. I mean, nothing is impossible. Believe in yourself. There is a road to be taken. There are roadblocks to be put down. But I really think it begins there. It's funny, when I moved back to Seattle, where I now live, I had lived prior in 4 different states over a 26-year period. And I remember having a wife of a high school buddy of mine over here with the couple was here, and they were overlooking my majestic backyard, overlooking Puget Sound and the pool, and a couple of sets of different islands to the north and the south. And Stacia was her name. And Stacia said, "Tom, did you ever think you would move back to Seattle like this, in this kind of style?" And I thought for a second. I said, "Stacia, that's funny you should ask. This is exactly how I envisioned it. I'm a dreamer, Andy. I dream big. I think big. But visualization to me was kind of pinnacle to that." So absolutely. I think your sign there really defines nothing is impossible.
I love it, Tom. So exciting what you're doing. Of course, you built the captive insurance company. You've got the temperature controlled packaging. You and Steve are just knocking the cover off the ball with all that the cloud-based multi-carrier shipping technology platform. I mean, it just makes everything so simple for your clients. And of course, you're a mentor, and you've got, a son and a daughter at college. They must be so proud of what you're doing. And I'm sure that you're imparting some of this amazing wisdom onto them as well. So I'm just so happy and delighted I've been able to get you on the show today, Thomas. This has been a great interview, and congratulations on what you're doing as a leader in the shipping field. We're going to watch what you and, of course, Steve are doing, and we're looking forward to big things. I'm going to bring you back on the show again, because I want to further unpack this mentorship angle that you have, because it's so important to hear from people like you who've done it, so that people who are about to do it can learn from the people who've already done it. So, Tom, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It would be my pleasure, Andy, and thanks for having me today.